Welcome to episode 247 of the Shared Security Show. And joining me this week is my one and only co-host, the real Scott Wright.
Just me this time.
Yeah.
I'm not going skiing afterwards either. So.
Not going skiing. Yeah. The real Scott Wright is here.
Yeah.
Everyone. Welcome back.
Yes.
And
where's the real Kevin?
Well, the real Kevin is not feeling well today, so we're going to give him the week off.
That's sad.
So he can hopefully feel better. Yeah. But yes, so hopefully everyone saw the episode last week where we did our impromptu Halloween edition.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. So check that out.
Yeah, but we're back to serious stuff now.
We are very serious stuff. And our first story was about the verdict in the Uber breach.
Yeah.
This has generated, I'll just say, a lot of controversy in the cybersecurity community, specifically, because Joe Sullivan, who was the former CISO over at Uber, and this is a situation that goes back to 2016 when they had a breach. And he's been accused of covering up that breach while he was the chief security officer at Uber. And he was actually convicted. An actual guilty verdict was issued. And he actually will probably spend time in jail. Obviously, he's going to appeal this. But this is obviously stirred up the security community in that this is the first case of an actual chief information security officer being accused of a crime and can actually serve jail time.
It's an interesting problem that, it's going to take a long time to, I think, sort through, in terms of trying to figure out what's the right answer for, the legal liability, because you could almost think of it as equivalent to a chief financial officer, right? There's a lot of potential risk and liability that has to be managed in a responsible way. But the difference I see is that chief financial officers, everything is numbers, right? It's all discrete. You can say this happened or this didn't happen. With a security officer, you're trying to fight, invisible threats and you're trying to determine what do you need to have in place to counter these things. Now, that's assuming everything is above board, and you can certainly question a CSO's motives and maybe their methods, but it is a lot more of a gray area, I think, than a lot of other C-suites.
Now, the thing I want to specify about this particular case was that he's actually been accused of obstruction of justice,
right.
And lying to the government, basically.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant when I said methods.
Yeah. So he's not being accused of the data breach itself, right?
You didn't have enough firewalls.
You failed to protect the company, so you're going to jail.
Yeah.
This is really about him lying to the government about it, and it is pretty complicated because there are like they even talk about like the legal team knew about it as well, but they weren't involved in the prosecution. I mean, there's all these different weird things going on in this particular case, but I think, my opinion, and I know Kevin and I have had this discussion, that this isn't really a, this could happen to anybody. If you lie to the government, you're probably going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So no matter who you are, right?
Happened to be a C-suite officer in a very, very visible, very important company.
and if you're in a leadership position and maybe a legal department or somebody else, maybe the CEO says, maybe you should try to cover this up. You should still report it because it's the right thing to do and not continue to cover things up. So, I think this is an interesting case. I don't think it is oh my gosh, everyone that's a CISO should freak out and, now check your personal liability.
I think it did bring attention, what CISOs are going to jail.
It did.
Yeah.
But as someone had said on LinkedIn, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. right?
That's one way to put it. Yeah, yeah.
That is one way to put it. So,
Yeah.
So we'll obviously be following this closely. I'm obviously going to be appealed and all of that stuff before this gentleman serves jail time. But it's pretty serious. I mean, he could. I think they said the sentence could be up to 8 years in prison. So that's no joke.
It is. It's pretty serious. And, I think the serious part of the discussion too is not just about the fact that, they decided to cover the things up. It's really, think about this, the slippery slope that you're on when you're talking about, communicating or publicizing vulnerabilities, right? How we've talked about this before on the show, at what point do you publicize a vulnerability, and not have, liability, right? So this could eventually play into this kind of story as well. So, if you get used to not disclosing vulnerabilities, then what else might you hide, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, let's go into our favorite segment, Scott, and that is Aware Much.
Aware Much? Yes. Thanks, Tom. Well, today we're going to talk about passwords and specifically expiry of passwords. How often have you been, trying to get something done and you go and try and log in and something says, oh, your password's expired, right?
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not fun.
No.
And, there's already enough sort of cultural angst about the security role in a business.
Yeah.
You don't really need a lot more. So, we've still got this little quirk, where people are forced to change their passwords every once in a while. And I think the standard typically has been, 90 days quite often, sometimes in more secure organizations more frequently. But, the whole point of forcing somebody to change their password is ideally to sort of reduce the risks that if a password has been stolen in an attack or accidental breach, that, you change it every once in a while and it won't be usable. But I guess the question, that comes out at this time when we're looking at this particular story is how effective is that as a method of reducing risk, to force somebody to change passwords? And are there, other consequences of forcing people to change passwords fairly frequently, right? And when you think about it, if you change your password and then you forget your password that you just changed, then you got to go back through the process of recovery. And sometimes they will let you change it back to what it was before. And so in the end, it doesn't really make a huge difference because a lot of people will go back and use the same password. On the other hand, if you're, getting people to be, good citizens and they're changing their passwords to something different, now they've got the problem of remembering them all if they're not using a password manager. And a lot of businesses have not yet formally adopted password managers, which is, I think, a problem too. That's sort of a secondary thing around this. But, I think the point is the real recommendations, I think, from NIST, the National Institute for Science and Standards and Technology, they had changed the rules or the recommendations several years ago, right? So they were saying use longer passwords, less complex, and you shouldn't need to force them to be changed, right? I think that was in the most recent guidance. But a lot of organizations and a lot of regulatory frameworks haven't actually adopted that yet. And so there's still a bit of a mess, right?
Yeah, it's a total mess. Yeah. And I like the fact too that, and they point out in this article that if you already have a secure password, why would you need to change it if it follows, complexity guidelines and things like that? And especially if we're encouraging employees to use passphrases and a password manager, and if you have two-factor authentication on top of that, right, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Those password change policies really can just
die. There's an interesting sort of analogy or parallel to credit cards, right? So when a credit card number gets stolen, there's only a certain amount of time before you discover it and you change it, right? So most of the times when it comes to passwords, if people have seen a breach, or usually it's the website that's been compromised, right, finds out there's been a breach, and they tell people change your password. So attackers, I think, are pretty well attuned to the fact that they have to use that password pretty soon after it's been stolen. Stale passwords probably aren't worth as much as more recently stolen ones. And so it doesn't really make sense that, some 60 days later, I'm going to change my password, because the guy's already probably used it if he's stolen it.
Yeah.
So that's the main point I think we want to get across. So, all that to say, I think we all have struggles with the passwords, but let's try and make it a little bit more reasonable for employees. If you're in a security role in an organization, maybe you don't need to have password resets every 90 days. If you do have good, strong passwords, and you do tell people to change them when there is a breach or some known compromise of their password. So that's the basics, right? So this story was brought to you by ClickArmor, the first fully gamified security awareness training and engagement platform. And you might have noticed recently I've been on a little bit of a tear with my LinkedIn posts around the top reasons why live phishing tests suck.
I love it.
So, I mean, I've been dancing around it for a couple of years, hinting that maybe there's a better way, but I think people just need more of a straight up revelation. And can you guess, Tom, how many ways in which I've identified live phishing tests suck?
More than one.
More than one. More than 15.
Wow, 15? That's a lot.
I'm posting one a day this Security Awareness Month. I'm posting one
I love it.
a day. So I might even have 20. I might have enough to go the whole month.
Wow, they really do suck.
A different way that live phishing tests suck. So if you don't want your security awareness program to suck, I recommend you check out ClickArmor.
So our last story, this was on KrebsSecurity.com, which Brian Krebs, we always love his stuff. But there's a big problem going on with LinkedIn lately, and that is with fake profiles and bots infiltrating this social network. I mean, we've talked for years about bots and fake profiles on all the social networks.
Yes.
And if Kevin was here, I would
social zombies and
yes, that most of those profiles belong to Kevin, but he is not here, unfortunately, but I'll say it anyway. Because that was the joke. It's like, oh, all these profiles on LinkedIn, they must be Kevin's. But this is a big problem. In fact, in the article, they talked about this group in LinkedIn called Sustainability Professionals. They have over 300,000 members. And one of the group's owners has said that he's blocked over 12,000 suspected fake profiles so far this year. And it's fascinating to me. And the difference, what they're finding in this article, we'll link in the show notes, you can read more about it, but they're using those AI apps that generate pictures, profile pictures. I think we talked about that one on the show before.
Yeah.
It was that this person is not real.com or something like that. Which you can keep refreshing the page and it'll show you a profile picture of created through AI, essentially, of somebody.
Wow.
And they have automated this to create very realistic. And if you look at some of these profiles, these are all executives. They're all, high level, C-level type of individuals. They look very believable. And it'd be very difficult at first glance to see, yep, that's a fake profile on LinkedIn. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've seen them myself, obviously. I get a lot of LinkedIn requests for connection, and sometimes they're just salespeople, right? And you can detect that. But there are some that are pretty obviously just fakes, right? For whether it's just the topic that they're raising or the bad grammar in their inquiry. But I would think it's important to check, the networks that these people belong to, right? I mean, you should be able to see a lot of mutual connections, if it's somebody you don't know, and you should be able to reach out to your potential mutual connections and say, do you really know this person? So, or in most cases like mine, I don't bother. I just ignore them.
Yeah. Yeah. There's, it's interesting too, just to see what they were talking about in this article about, no one really knows what the purpose yet of all of these fake profiles are, because they haven't been doing anything, right? So that there's one example of, someone tried to interact with them through a message and there was no response.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are suggesting that they're kind of bots in waiting, if you will, for orders.
Yeah.
Most likely, I think Mandiant, the cybersecurity firm now owned by Google, had said that they're potentially maybe used by, like, say, North Korea to send cryptocurrency scams, and other types of things, or the term called pig butchering scams, which that's actually a pretty new term.
Sounds gross. I never heard of that one.
For fake profiles, where flirtatious strangers, right, are luring usually men to click links and other types of things related to cryptocurrency. But interesting nonetheless. And it's just fascinating to me that seeing that, LinkedIn has a big problem with this. In fact, like all social networks do, but it doesn't seem like LinkedIn right now is getting a good handle on it with so many of these fake profiles. So there's some suggestions too of, what LinkedIn could do. One of those examples was looking at the creation date of the profile.
Yeah, sure.
So new profiles, obviously, that have, a filled out profile and they look pretty realistic, that might be an indicator to somebody that's probably a fake profile, right? If it was just created yesterday, and those types of things.
But do you believe the statement from LinkedIn that says they stop around 90%, 96% of fake accounts?
I don't know. It's kind of like how Twitter says they don't have a bot problem, and Elon Musk calling them out on less than 5%. I think was the number, right? And I would say that's much greater than 5% on Twitter.
But it doesn't seem like it would be that hard, like you said, for LinkedIn to clamp down on some of this stuff. So
yeah,
I guess it's their aggressiveness on trying to grow the platform, the membership. Right.
So the old adage, like we've talked about on the show, and the advice that we give people, you should really only be accepting requests from people that or people that you have interacted with or done business with on LinkedIn. Be very, very careful just accepting those requests from just random people that message you.
Yeah. I mean, if you're really, wanting to have some kind of a formula for who you do or don't accept, like I said, a lot of people that I will see invites from or have, a handful of connections, right? You just like, what's the value in connecting with somebody that has so few or a dozen or so, right? I mean, unless you do know them and you're trying to help them out building their network, then don't accept those. I mean, I don't have a problem accepting requests from people that have 10,000 followers or whatever, right? Because it's pretty hard to create a fake profile that has 10,000 followers.
Yeah. Manually.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Right. Maybe someday the AI will do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. These profile pictures too are pretty, realistic. Those AI generated profile pics are, they're good. I mean, they are really good. So it's interesting to see how bots have evolved to take advantage of new technology like that. It's fascinating.
The whole AI image and video thing is probably a topic for another program, but
yes,
I was watching a British TV show called The Capture.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
No. It's really heavily themed around the problem of deep fakes and UK law enforcement and stuff like that, and intelligence.
Cool.
And like real-time deep fakes. It's pretty cool.
Check that out. It's cool. All right, Scott. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. One last shout out I wanted to give was to our sponsor, Silent, which I'm wearing their hat.
Oh, there you go.
So we've been doing a lot more collaboration. At least I've been doing a lot more collaboration with Silent. There's more things that we have in the works as well, especially around the holidays. You might see another contest pop up for free Faraday gear.
There we go.
Which they are known for. So just don't forget that if you'd like to purchase any of their fine quality products, you could do so by going to silent.com and use discount code shared security to take 10% off your order. So love those guys.
Yeah.
Love their products. They've been a long time supporter of the show. So definitely check them out.
Excellent. And we thank them.
Yes. And with that, that is all for this week's show. But thank you, Scott, for co-hosting.
Thank you, Tom, for doing the awesome job you do every week on hosting. So
you're welcome. We hope Kevin feels better.
Yeah.
And we will talk to all of you again next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. To catch all the latest from the show, visit our website, sharedsecurity.net. Follow us on Twitter @SharedSec, and join our Reddit community on the Shared Security Show subreddit.